wiser with wine. Wiser with wine. Keeping it real, one pour at a time. This is wiser with wine.
Hi everyone, welcome back. As I said last podcast, we're going to have Emma join us for this particular episode. We are talking about this time we're talking about women in the wine industry, but that's not going to be the main talking point. We're going to talk about wine, we're going to talk about being a mum and having wine knowledge, talking about where we can use wine and food. There's a lot of things we're going to talk about, but I thought we'd talk about first, where did we meet and where you're working and how's life treating you, because I've known you now probably 2 decades, I think.
Oh, yes.
Yes, so
that makes me feel old. But yeah, I mean, we met at Must.
Yes.
Which I spent, the best part of 8 years there. And I worked with there for maybe a year together, year, 2 years together.
And I'm trying to think how long. So that was probably back in
07, 08, I reckon.
Yeah.
When you came.
Yeah, because you didn't have.
No, and I left in 09.
Yes, that pretty much. And I came from internationally, I came from a cruise ship back into Perth, Western Australia. And nobody was game enough to actually hire me because they kept saying to me, you're overqualified. So I was actually jobless for about 9 months, and I'd done a lot of things in hospitality and maybe too much back then in Perth time.
Yes.
Perth time then. And the person that took me on board was Russell Blakey as such, and he threw me into, I'll never forget, my first service at Must Wine Bar was Melbourne Cup.
Oh, what a service to start on. Wowee. Those were the days.
Oh, and it's like the whole restaurant was, it's massive.
Yeah.
It was a massive day. And I remember walking in, and the first person that met me was you, because you were standing there next to the champagne.
Was I?
Yeah.
Sounds like me.
Yeah, and it was, you were standing right there.
Sounds appropriate.
And you were lovely. And I wouldn't. No, you were lovely and really welcoming. And I do remember working with you. But you are now one of the, I will say, state's top sommeliers.
Oh, thank you.
I'm extremely proud in watching you go throughout your career and your accolades. And not that I'm on social media that much because I don't have time, but I do see what's going on with everything. And I was just going to say, before we start talking about your career and your accolades, one of my fondest memories of Emma is where the place that we worked on was is called Must on Beaufort Street. And most people know it in Perth. It's infamous. It's closed now. It was around for 17 years. It was the first wine bar in Perth. And we worked hard.
Oh, yes.
And that particular establishment had 7 owners, or maybe more.
Yeah, there was a bunch.
And 7 different personalities with 7 different directions. And then their children would come in. And we're not naming any families here. We're just talking about them coming in and having a party. And basically, Emma turns around to me. She's dealing with one of the kids who's had way too much to drink. Emma goes to me, now look what we have to deal with.
Did I? Not at
and
all.
I thought you were hilarious from then, because I thought I like this girl because she's straight up and down. She'll tell you how it is. So you are a sommelier.
Yes.
It's not Somalia. It's not a country in Africa. It's an actual trade. It's a sommelier. Tell us what you're doing now and how in the past few years, what achievements you have, you've done, so to speak.
Well, now I'm the wine director at the State Buildings in the city. So all State Buildings come in the Treasury. So we have 8 food and beverage outlets in the building, plus a retail wine store, a members club. We're just about to open a new wine-focused private dining room with its own cellar. We also have State Cellars, which is an off-site facility where we have 33 private cellars. So I buy wine for those members and engage with them, doing a lot of educational masterclasses and events. We have Lawson Flats, which is another members club around the corner. And then in my spare time, I do a bit of judging as well. So just to keep my palate, on par with where it needs to be, and also to leave Perth. Essentially, I do it so I can leave Perth and go and meet other people in the wine industry. It's where I get to catch up with friends and winemakers from around the country. Often is at wine shows, so it's a great sort of 4 or 5 days to sort of assess wine from various parts of the country, but also to meet with colleagues and like-minded people and just make connections. And yeah, I enjoyed that.
So you curate the wine. Do you select the wine that goes?
Yeah, so I taste all of the wines, curate all of the lists, do a lot of staff training, it's not just wine though. I mean, really, hospitality.
Yeah.
It's very much pulled into obviously a food and beverage, hospitality focus. So I do a lot of work with the restaurants to create activations and events and, that sort of stuff front facing. That's all part of the buildings, which is great. I love it. So, there's a lot of moments where I'm like, I don't think this is really part of my job description, but, that's the role, right? You just do it. And then I guess in the last probably 2 years, I've been doing a lot more behind the scenes stuff as well, which is great for me for my sort of professional development and a lot of, the numbers and the finance and the things that I don't love, and that's not what drew me into hospitality, obviously. I'm very much a people person, but it's really important to have all of that skill set. So
and
trying to
keep that growth going.
Yeah, and having more of a team now, and then learning how to delegate, which I've never been great at. Learning how to manage people well and see people grow and sort of help them to become the best versions of what they want to be while they're there.
And so a question for you. I've been out of the service industry for probably since 6 years now, and I went back to management later on, and I was also became a school teacher, so I fell off the scene totally.
Wow. See, I know I admire school teachers because that is crazy.
Well, I just
you
ran
deal with drunk people, but children.
Yeah, but I ran my classroom like a restaurant. So I was in a public school where kids wouldn't come with pens and paper. So I used to set up my room like the restaurant. I said, okay, there's your fork and there's your plate. So when they came in, they always had something to do.
Yeah.
And I felt like that my hospitality training really helped me in the classroom because I was a Nazi of a restaurant manager. I was a Nazi of a teacher. But in saying that, I had a lot of fun doing it because of the stuff that I learned in management and managing a team in hospitality. So I'll ask you now, before we pop into the wine questions, how is it to manage staff now, let's say, compared to when you and I were working restaurants 20 years ago?
It is different. It's very different, and it's different in good ways and bad ways. Right. A lot of the laws around hospitality have changed. So in terms of what is legal, in terms of length of shift, break times, all those sort of things, hours that people can work, it's a lot more strict and a lot more regulated and controlled, which is great. So people aren't pulling those ridiculous 17-hour shifts anymore, which is great for everyone's well-being and, mental health, which is good. You don't want people, we used to wear that like a badge of honour. I've done 17 hours without a break, no food. Like, what a legend.
I'm having a nervous breakdown.
Yeah, like it was a really strange thing that we used to think that was cool. So that's really good. Now there's a lot more, support and security for younger staff in hospitality. I think that obviously it's hard with a lot of international staff.
Yep.
We have a lot of kids on visas who are fantastic and they can only stay 6 months. That's really difficult because you sort of spend that 6 months training them and getting them settled and they have to leave. Fortunately for us, they don't want to leave, which is always nice. They hate leaving, but they have to. So that's really difficult. So it's very transient at the moment, which we're struggling with a bit because, people like to see, especially our repeat guests, which we have a lot of, they like to see the same faces. They like to have recognition, and that's part of hospitality when you go somewhere all the time. To have someone know your face and know your order and know your friends' names or your partner's kids' names and, your business, what you do. It's just nice to have that. So it's harder and harder to sort of build that with teams.
And there's an old saying that the sweetest sound is your own name. So I always even now I look at people's name badges and I say their name, especially when I'm in a restaurant and they want them to do something. You say their name, they'll listen to you.
Very true.
Yeah, you just say their name. Yeah. Just those little things. Okay, we'll be talking a little bit about the state buildings later, what's going on there later on in the interview. However, I think we start talking about, how about the Q&A?
Okay. Don't judge me on these, all right?
Okay. No judgment.
No judgment at all.
There's no bad questions, only bad answers.
No.
I have to answer them, so that's on me, right?
As honest as you can. All right.
Okay.
So how did you get into the wine industry?
I got into the wine industry through hospitality. So I've always worked in hospitality since I was 14, 15.
Okay.
And I'm one of those, like Renee calls it a disease, but it is a lifer. I love it. It's in my bones. Like I have taught the boys at home like mise en place in terms of like the house.
You can tell, you get that straight away with her.
It's like this is what we do in the mornings, this is what we do at nighttime.
Yeah.
It's just, I love it. So I have always worked in restaurants and hotels, and then when I was about 21, I decided that I wanted to have a bit of a focus. So I kind of fell into a bit of a wine
Streamlined
role
into it.
Yeah, and then decided really quite instantaneously that's what I wanted to do. I was like, I actually really like this. So, and my dad had always been a fairly big wine drinker and dragged us around to wineries when we were little. So
kind of
I kind of
through
had
there.
had the vibe for it.
Cool.
Yeah, and just decided that that's what I wanted to do. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Then what's the biggest mistake people make when choosing wine? Is there a mistake?
I mean, there's a lot of mistakes, I guess. I think it's important for people to know what they like. And sometimes when people say to me, I don't really like wine, I'm like, you do. I believe everyone can like wine. It's just finding what you like. And so I always find that a really great challenge when someone says to me, I don't drink red. I don't like Chardonnay.
Like your challenge is to
It's like, you
get them to...
Yeah, I'll find something that you like. So I think people sometimes overthink it or they're just not particularly educated and therefore they're drinking things that aren't suited to their palate and they're like, and then they're not enjoying it. And that's the worst thing when you're drinking something and not enjoying it. So even if I recommend wine to someone and they don't like it, if they sort of give me their guidelines and I open something and they're like, oh, no, it's not for me, I'm like, that's cool, don't drink it. I don't want you to drink something that doesn't bring you joy. So I'm like, I can sell that somewhere else. Just let's find something that works for you. That's very important.
So just wanted to touch just quickly palate. If you just want to explain to us when you say palate, different parts of the tongue taste different things. Is that correct?
Yeah, essentially. I mean, when you're tasting wine, you've got to think about the tongue, the sides of your mouth, the roof of your mouth. And in wine, you're sort of looking at a kind of texture, alcohol, acid, sugar, and tannin are sort of the things that you're looking at when you're tasting wine. So when you put wine in your palate, you'll taste sugar on different parts of your tongue. You'll taste salt on different parts of your tongue. Tannin obviously is a feeling. Acid is a feeling. Texture is a feeling. So a lot of the things with wine, I find I talk about the way wine feels as opposed to the way that wine tastes. And when you read tasting notes, it sounds like a shopping list a lot of the time of ingredients.
It does.
It's
I'm
just
so
like, this is
confused
madness. Because for me, so much of wine is about feeling in the mouth, not so much flavours. So that's what gets
me is when I just remember this. It's always ingrained in my head. Went down to Margaret River and we would have been like, 18, 19. And, when you're 18, 19, I'm not going there to find out what kind of grape this is. I'm going there to get smashed at the wine tasteries. And I just never forget this lady that was helping us, sommelier there, and she goes really snidely, was like, clearly you have a very immature palate. And I thought, fuck you. So I think I just knocked it back even more, stole the glass, got in the cut because we were trying to steal glasses from the wineries. But it always stayed with me when they go, oh, what do you get out of this? I go, wine. And I go, I don't know, what do you think? It just gets me that. It just is a real... I think
a lot of people try to make it...
more than what it is.
Make it very snobby and very fancy, and it's a drink made of grapes.
It does come out like that.
At the end of the day. So it is, there's a lot of... I try and sort of sit on both sides because there's so much hard work that goes into producing one great bottle of wine. There's so much hard work. And when you know a lot of winemakers and spend time with them and viticulturalists and people that work in vineyards and the amount of crazy work that they do to get, results that it's insane. So it is really nice to be respectful of the product, but
I've made wine and I will say this, it is so trying to make it really organic, no sugars and stuff. It's the most hardest process and we've had hit and misses over the years, but my hat goes off to people that make amazing wine because it is extremely hard.
And it's generational. A lot of these vineyards, they pass down the knowledge.
There's a lot of history and even the Australian wines, the history of Australian wine is super interesting and really diverse and a lot of beautiful old vineyards that it's really important that the stories get told and passed down because a lot of, we live in a time now where we can record all this stuff, but before we couldn't. And a lot of those people, are no longer with us. So it's very hard to sort of know a lot of these stories.
Because especially there might be the grandfather might be like, oh, you might have a really, really cold winter. And he'd be like, we haven't had a cold winter like that in 10 years.
Yeah.
How that impacts the wine and then how they choose the varieties to.
Yeah, and it changes. I mean, wine is always evolving. You never know everything. You can never know everything about wine because it's always changing. Rules are changing, laws are changing, climate's changing. Consumer tastes change. So then people, change what they're making or stylistically what they want to produce and so it's never
fresh.
Done. Yeah. It's I know all the things now, I'm finished. There is none of that. So you can always learn more.
And that's what makes it interesting because it's ever changing.
And I think that's what I think people that work in the industry that are good at their role need to be a little bit humble because you do, like, no one knows everything. There is no knowing everything. And I've certainly met a whole lot of people in my career that believe they know everything. And
Can be a humbling experience.
and yeah, they don't. So it's like, cool story. Whatever.
just meeting you now and just like, I could just love your facial expression. Be like, you could just see it in the eyes going.
I've been told a few times you need to watch your facial expressions because what you're thinking is written all over your face.
You're clearly not a good poker player.
No, not at all.
I'd rather that than like not having anything.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I can't say the word, I want to show you what you are.
Yeah.
It's like and just like that, the face is on just like that.
Oh God.
Well, now knowing how diversified everyone's different palates are, if I was going to a dinner party and there was a mix of people there,
Yeah.
what kind of wine would you recommend someone bringing that might have a
I always ask people if they can ask what the host is cooking.
Yeah.
You know, if you know what they're cooking, that's
Cooking
always a good
lamb
start.
or fish
Yeah,
or-
like
yeah.
what are you making? And knowing a little bit about the rest of the part, like the guests and what the vibe is for the party. If it's just going to be a bit of a like, it's about catching up and seeing each other and talking and we're not really focused on the wine, we're not going to be sitting here analysing what's in the glass. I would just take something that you love to drink and that you want to share and that you want to drink. Like I'd say never take something that is really, really rare and special if it's to a group that don't really care. You know what I mean? If they're just happy to drink whatever, like just take something that you know is going to be pleasurable and immediate and great. Because you don't want to take something and be like, oh, no one appreciated this really great wine I took if it's not the right crowd. So I'd say that. Otherwise, just champagne.
Yeah.
Always champagne.
Yeah.
That's always
Go-to.
You can never go wrong with champagne.
That's a go-to.
And no one ever says, oh, my God, you bought champagne. How terrible. Like no one ever says that.
Actually, that is true. Yes.
Yeah, it's like getting a box of chocolates.
Yeah.
You
It's
still eat it.
never
It's
a bad day.
Even bad, you will eat it.
Yeah.
I find like champagne as well is a great starter. Like when you first get there, it's quite light and refreshing. And then
Yeah.
if people want to go
It
on
is, but it's
something
actually
bit
also
heavier.
a really great food wine. So a lot of
Yeah.
people drink champagne as an aperitif, but it's actually an excellent food wine because it's high acid. So it works really well with heaps of different types of savoury things as well.
An
think
excellent
of
wine
that.
to make you happy as well.
That's
Some of the
true.
best wine experiences I've had have been with a great bottle of champagne and a very simple food item, like a chicken sandwich or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Chicken sandwich.
what do different types of wine say about your personality? So say if I rocked up to the dinner party with a Pinot Noir, what's everyone thinking that Alex is like?
Ooh, she's a bit artsy. No, I
A Pinot Noir from Central Otago.
no, I think if you rock up with a bottle of Pinot, they're like, probably I would think, okay, this person likes to drink wine, you know? That's what I would think if you brought
That's why
Pinot.
we're
Okay.
Pinot drinkers.
So a Pinot Noir Central Otago. I just can't go wrong because I don't know much about wine, but if I'm rocking up to a BWS and I go to that section, it tends to not disappoint me.
Yeah. So I would
Pick
be
a
like,
nice
okay,
one.
she likes Pinot, she likes wine, but I could probably also give her like a cool climate Shiraz. She'll be happy with that as well. If you drink a
go
Otago
with that
Pinot
too.
because it's a bit bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about if someone just rocks up with a bottle of Sauv Blanc?
So yeah, that was
See
my
the
face.
face?
That was my face.
She just wants to get pissed.
And I don't. No, it's not that I don't like Sauvignon Blanc. I love Sauvignon Blanc. It's got
Party girl?
flavour. It's a great variety. It really is. I would think, yeah, probably someone who is more about just having a good time and drinking something that's going to make them happy rather than like really focusing on the wine. But it depends on the Sauvignon Blanc. If they came with a bottle of like really beautiful Sancerre, I'd be like, hell yeah, this person knows what they're talking about.
Yeah, 'cause that could be like a trick.
face.
Yeah,
If you bring a
absolutely.
really good
There's
bottle
some
of Sauv, you
fantastic
can.
Sauvignon Blanc in the world, so I wouldn't, always mock it.
Can't
Yeah, there's lots
discourage.
of different nice Sancerres.
There is.
Since
yeah.
you say Sancerre, you say Pouilly-Fumé, and I just go,
Yeah.
wow.
There's some great examples of
brilliant.
Savvy.
All right, so what's your go-to I've had a day type of wine, like when you've just had it?
Oof. I mean, this happens regularly.
Oh, well, then we need to know what wine this is.
Yeah, I mean, I always say, like, no, it doesn't happen regularly. I always say to people that you shouldn't save your great bottles for a good day or a good occasion. Like, people always save their great bottles of wine
what
for
we
a
do.
special
We
occasion.
save it.
No, I think you should drink your best bottles of wine on your shittest days.
Yeah.
Because when you've had a really bad day, I mean, it's good to drink good things on
That's
good days
actually
as
a
well,
good
but when
idea.
you've had a really bad day, it's like the only thing that's going to make it better is something nice at the end of the day, whether it's a bottle of wine or something else, depending on what you're into. But if you've had a really bad day and then you finish it on a really great bottle of wine, like you're going to be feeling slightly better than you were before. So
That
I think
is
that's
the best
really
advice
important
I've
thing.
ever heard.
Do you know
Yeah.
what? No, I'll say this.
I'm
I always
so gonna
save
do
it.
that.
And then when I'm having a shit day, I drink a shit bottle of wine.
Yeah.
And then feel even
Yeah.
more shit.
And it makes you feel worse. So
And then I
drink
go to
something really
gin and then
good.
ride myself up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Perfect. I love
That's
that.
great. I'm going to do
It's
that.
great psychology.
Yes.
Yeah. But, I would probably go to like the fallback things that I love just to bring me like comfort,
And what do you love?
Oh, I love
I
a lot
know-
of wine.
yeah, I
And
know-
there's that question,
yeah, I know,
what's your favourite
yeah.
wine? I love champagne, obviously. But I would never drink champagne by myself. I don't think. Champagne for me is always a sharing
Someone else.
thing.
Yeah.
I like to share champagne and I really love drinking champagne. And I drink champagne like wine. A lot of people drink champagne really cold in a flute. I drink champagne in a wine glass and not freezing cold. As it warms up, it shows so much more character. And I like to talk about champagne and watch it kind of evolve and open up in the glass. So
I think I drink it too fast. So I've never let it warm before in the glass.
always
Champagne
cold,
is
always
it's a
cold.
really interesting like vinous drink as well. Like it's not just something that's got bubbles in it that you drink and not think about it. Like there are so many fantastic producers that make really, really. When I say vinous, I mean like you drink them like wine. They're really giving and they open up and they change and they're really cool. Other than that, I tend to gravitate towards Italian because I love Italian wine. So whether it's Italian whites, Italian reds, it's kind of my happy
I
place.
do agree with that. Italian wine's good.
Italians, and it's great food wine too.
And
Italian
always good food wine.
Yeah, always good food.
Yeah.
And talking about food, what would you pair with hangover food like Macca's or KFC?
The real important questions.
Really
here.
important questions, yeah.
So she didn't pull a face so she understands.
Oh,
Emma,
yeah.
Oh my
Emma
God.
understands.
I'm all about like having so me and one of my really good friends who's a som as well, we often catch up and we'll have hood burgers and great champagne.
That's a good
That's like the
idea.
thing that
I
we
know,
do
that's a good one.
because it brings us great joy to do that.
Closer together. Closer.
Yeah. And then we can have 2 bottles of champagne because we both bring one. It's great. So I think, again, champagne works beautifully with anything fatty. So that's cool. I like things like, oh, God, what do I love? I mean, I'm judging Brisbane in a few weeks and we're doing buckets and Burgundy. So we're doing KFC and Chardonnay and Pinot. So that'll be pretty fun. I think, again, like, trashy pizza and anything with lots of tannin is cool.
We're going to do a night like this.
So, yeah, I mean, there's so much fun stuff that you can do. It doesn't have to be all fancy bougie. And as I said, like some of the greatest bottles of wine that I've had have been with, something pretty low key. But,
greasy
hospo workers.
burger.
And I mean, I did that event at the State Buildings during COVID called Great Wine Guilty Snacks that went ridiculously viral. I had to do a video at my house. It was so awkward. I was terrible. And people called me the Cheesel Girl for years afterwards. Because I had to match wine to like shit snacks because everyone was stuck at home during COVID and couldn't.
It's what you had at home, basically.
Yeah, and so it was like cheesels
so
and
true.
barbecue sandboys and M&Ms and that sort of
Yes.
stuff. And I think that's the thing as well. Working in hospitality for many years, you'd get home and your fridge would be pretty much empty. So it was like, oh God, what?
But
You have a
everyday
great bottle of
Joe.
wine that you would have bought, and you'd just be eating it, drinking it with something a bit trashy.
That's actually
And that's
brilliant.
really okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, agreed.
It's good.
Yeah.
Not everything has to be
I'm learning
a
here.
super glamorous experience.
I'll never forget buckets and burgundy, guy. I love that's the best statement of the year, buckets and burgundy.
buckets
It's
Yeah,
great.
that
I'm
is
looking
cool.
forward to it. Yeah, it should be good fun. I think we're playing laser tag as well. I mean, this is the thing about the wine industry. It's super fun. Like,
Yeah.
it's not all stuffy sitting around.
That's what you assume it is.
Analysing wine being really judgmental. It's actually when you're wine judging. Like, what are you doing? It's like, oh no, we're playing laser tag and eating KFC. But I mean, we will be judging obviously during the day. But
Can I
Is
ask, are
it
you
laser
judging-
tag before or after?
Yeah.
I've got no idea. During,
I'm
not
assuming
sure.
they're judging and
I don't
then they're
know.
going to laser tag.
It's going to be great. I'm excited for it. And a lot of that's the thing, like, it's why I love the industry. There's so much, like I've met so many great people, so many fun people who love, we're such a weird breed, and it does cross from hospitality, I think, into wine. There's a little bit of crossover of,
You have to be a bit mad.
we don't want to sit down at a desk all day. We don't want to, we don't want to be really serious all the time. Look, it can get a little bit loose from time to time, and you've got to be measured about and sensible
How you are, yep.
and really maintain a good sense of balance. But I think I've nailed that perfectly. Don't want to brag, but done that well. Because but you can, like, you see people that haven't, and they can kind of really easily like go off the rails.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And which is sad. I've seen some really sort of sad stories, but I think if you manage it well, you can be successful and be respected, but also have fun and
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
Balance.
enjoy it for.
Is it a
everything.
small industry though?
I mean, Perth is small, really, in terms of hospo. You know, it's quite small.
Yeah.
Not like Melbourne and Sydney is huge, but I don't know. The wine industry of Australia, I guess, in a sense, is kind of small.
Yeah.
I don't know. Once you start meeting people, you sort of like you always know someone that knows
Networking
someone.
and stuff. Yeah.
So
Alex, you had a
The most important question I have is that what wine could you recommend for me if my toddler is having a tantrum?
just a lot. I could Magnum.
Quantity over
3
quality.
litre bottle. I think sometimes it's probably not the wine itself, but probably the manner in which you drink it. So, and I only speak from experience sometimes because I've got 2 children. They are a bit older now, so we don't have tantrums anymore, thankfully. But there was something about pouring wine into a coffee cup and just like throwing
Walking
it down that sort of made me feel like you don't even know that I'm drinking wine right now, but I am. You think I'm drinking coffee, you annoying little 5-year-old. And I'm not. I mean, that's probably quite immature when I think about it. But I don't know. I think sometimes you just need those little moments of like.
That is brilliant. Like,
There's probably.
But I think what you said before is open the bottle that you're really excited to have.
Yeah.
I actually did that the other day. My husband's working away at the moment. And I
yes,
just
that's tough.
opened, it was like 4:30 and I was like, just had it. And I just put a movie on for them and I opened a bottle that I had in the cupboard and I just I had a glass, just one glass. And then just the next day they just started to chip away at it.
Yes. I remember that from being a young mum and that like bath time, you'd get to a point, it was a zoo. Like I remember and my boys are really close together. So I would be breastfeeding one while spoon feeding the other one and then like try and get that one in the bath while I breastfed on that side and then, you know, all the, you know, just trying to do
crying
all of
in
it.
between.
And it was like when I finally would sit down at the end of all of that, it would just be like, one glass of wine. And it was like the most, and I didn't even care what it was, to be honest, at that point. I was like, I don't care what this is. It's just like, it was almost the ritual of having it. It was a bit like almost having a morning coffee. Or it was like, I just need
the
to have that
moment
to be
to
like,
sit.
I got through the day. They're both alive.
Yes.
I'm alive.
I did it.
My work is done here. And then the dog would look at me and be like,
Time to scratch my head, please.
no, you want to be
about
fed.
you.
Yeah. It was a time.
All right. My question is, though, this is an important question too. Can you tell the difference between a $15 bottle like wine or a $150 bottle?
I want to know this.
I think yes,
Yeah,
I
this
think
is
I
us.
could. Yes, I would like to think I could for sure. And I think it's quite interesting because people have done this as a little test on people before. And often the answer will, like, people prefer the cheaper bottle.
Yeah.
Which I can see why, because if your palate is not super advanced or experienced, I guess, quite often something that's quite fruit driven that maybe has, a fair whack of oak, you know, that kind of comes across as sort of vanilla-y and, you know, kind of rich and berry and vanilla and sweet fruit is super appealing. So that's probably what you're going to see. If we're talking sort of red wine, if you're getting something that's $15, that's probably what you're going to see. But it won't have the all of the things that we look for in wine, which is like balance, intensity, length and complexity. Those things won't be there. It'll be quite immediate and it will be pleasing and then it will just fall away.
Yeah.
Whereas something that's $150, you would hope, not all of it is, that it's, you know, it's got really good length, it's really complex, it sort of really stays in the palate for a long time and you can sort of feel layers and, you know, everything sort of in its place, alcohol, acid, tannin, you know, it's kind of seamless. That's what you would want from something that's, you know, in the premium level. But a lot of people might not like that. They might prefer the immediacy of something.
Because we were talking about this. We have done, I know in our group of friends, we do like the cheapest one of the week and find and see if it is good. So someone went and found a special $8. And actually, I will say this, they are getting better.
I mean, I think
you
that's
just
the
want a
one
cheap
thing. Like,
bottle.
it's really easy to buy expensive wine and it's really easy to find great wines for the lists that are expensive. It's the challenge is always finding entry level.
Hard.
That is, that drinks well. So, and we still need to have those wines in my venues. I've still got to have wines that are affordable and really have great drinkability and
Easy.
yeah,
Easy
and there's a
wines.
place for them. And so, yeah, that's we spend a lot of time on, probably more time on that stuff than the expensive stuff. Is great and it's easy because you taste it, you're like, that's great, I'll buy it.
But you do see that in the last few years. There's a lot more variety though now.
Yeah.
And actually decent.
And people need to, I think, like, good winemakers need to rest, you know, they can't rest on the laurels of their premium wine, especially if they have varying ranges, if they have sort of an entry, a mid and a premium. their entry-level wine has to drink so well because that's often what people might start on, and then that will lead them to
Gets you kind of hooked
tier
into
and the
it.
next tier. So you can't just be like, oh, but my premium is amazing, but my entry-level is, I don't care about that. Like, they have to care about that almost more than
Well, that leads
the
quite
premium.
well into your next
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah,
I was going to get there, Renee.
Yeah, I was just going to say, but
So then do you ever just grab a $10 bottle from the Bottle-O or Aldi or a box wine?
I like to go to bottle shops sometimes to look around and see what's there. Like, I find it a fun thing to do, to go to like Dan Murphy's or to BWS, because I don't really go into them very often because
we don't need to.
I don't need to. Yeah. So, and that's not out of snobbery. That's more just that I don't need to go into them. And then if I am looking often I'll go to the Restore, which is down the road from my house, and my son works there. And so, and obviously all the wine there is great. So sometimes I'll buy a bottle from there just because, you know, there might be something there that I haven't seen before. I always tell people though, and I tell some of my friends and family that don't work in the industry if they're going to buy, because often they're like, I just want to buy something good from that's not crazy expensive. And I'll usually tell them to gravitate towards a larger producer that is really well known, because, as I said before, like if their premium stuff's really good, they usually have the vineyard scope to have like a lot of different fruit sources. So their entry level will probably be quite good as well.
Yeah.
Rather than sort of going for the abstract thing that they've never heard of before. But I don't know, in saying that there's so much choice. I mean, Australian wine is in the greatest place it's ever been. There are so many options and there are so many great large producers, but there's also a lot of really great small producers as well.
Do you ever walk into a Bottle-O and be really surprised with how they've ordered the wine, and you'd be like, that bottle down there is like the best bottle in this whole shop, and
you can
it's in
find
the corner.
some really good bargains. That's kind of like the game that I play. Like, what's the good wine in here?
what are they
But, like,
seeing?
no one's buying that, but it's really something awesome.
Yeah, do you ever just want to like
And it's-
rearrange things
yeah,
and be like,
and
everyone
it's
just
super
buy this
fun.
one down here?
Yeah, it's cool.
I feel like OCD like you going, no, not like that.
I guess I just get annoyed if I go in, and you do see it a lot in the sort of mainstream ones. You see
Yeah.
a lot of the clear glass, classic white blendy things that sort of have no.
Now, Emma,
Yes.
have you ever pretended to like a wine
Yes.
just to be
have.
polite? Yeah.
Way too many times.
Yeah.
And one of my girlfriends, actually, she says, you're so adaptable. Like, I really am. And like, to my detriment, I'm like, I really should stop being so adaptable. And I should be like, no, I don't want to do this. So I'm going to start trying really hard to do that more often.
Is it just because you like a lot of wines, and you can find
I'm annoyingly polite. I don't want to offend people. And I think because people expect me, like, oh, you'll probably hate that. Don't worry, I bought wine, but you'll probably hate it. And so I specifically don't hate it because I don't want them to think that I'm a massive wine snob.
But then aren't you stuck then with it, going, how am I going to like?
Yeah, sometimes. But, you know, I've learned some, like, good ways to dispose of things when no one's paying attention. So there's always a way. There's always a way.
Comes to my house.
It was a pot plant or, you know, something.
nice,
gift.
it's nice
A
vinegar
gift.
now. Yeah, a gift.
Yeah.
Re-gift.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've done that many a time.
What wine trend makes you roll your eyes?
I mean, there's been a lot. And I would, like, wine is fashion. So there's a lot of trends that come and go.
Yeah.
And, you know, some things you sort of go, oh, this is ridiculous. I think Piquette was, like, I had a bit of an eye roll at that. That was silly. And that died in the ass super quick.
It's like you knew.
I was just like, why are people making this? Essentially, it's what they made in the vineyards in Europe to, like, with the must, the leftover must, like, mixed it with water and gave it to the vineyard workers to drink.
Right.
So it was like, oh, just not nice.
Okay.
You know, you're looking at hard pressings mixed with water, like with bubbles in it.
Yeah.
Ugh, yuck. I mean, maybe great if you'd been working in a vineyard all day, but not something you want to drink at the table, you know, in a restaurant. Sorry for all the people out there that have made Piquette. But you're not making it anymore,
We
are
love
you?
you.
No. So there. What else? I think the whole natural wine scene has been,
I was
you know,
going to ask you
frustrating.
that is frustrating.
People are, you know, natural wine, skin versus skin contact versus organic versus biodynamic. There's a lot of confusion in a lot of people about what all that is. So trying to make sure that education around that is sort
Is
of
that
shared
huge, that scene?
correctly. Yeah, it is. And it's been around for such a long time. It's not a new thing. And that's what kind of frustrates me when people are like, oh, this new trend of skin contact wine. I'm like, that's the oldest possible way you could make wine. The only reason that they did it was because they didn't have any machinery to extract, to separate skins from juice. So it was all just in there together.
Like a new
You know, it's
marketing scheme.
very primitive winemaking was that, very natural. They didn't have anything to add to the wine. So it was all very natural, all very, you know, I mean, probably not biodynamic as such, but certainly organic. And it's all been chopped and changed and smooched around and shifted and kind of
Renamed.
spat out as something else. So it does get a little bit frustrating when people make assumptions about something and think that because it's that, it's going to be this, this, and this. So there's just, but again, it's just about educating people and hoping that people have. I think the thing about wine is it's everybody, well, not everyone, but a lot of people drink it. So therefore, people, if they drink it, they think they know about it, which, you know, some people do, but some people
I don't. I'm
not.
proud to say
And
I don't.
yeah, it's when people say, I don't know,
Thank
can
you.
you tell me? But a lot of people are like, oh, well, I know this because I drank that. And it's like, okay. Or they've been to, you know, a cellar door one time and therefore they're, you know,
Experts.
God. You're like,
I have a question about alcohol-free wine.
yeah.
Because I kind of dabbled in a little bit of that. And when I had my first child and then my second child, and then just the 2.5 years difference between kids, I noticed a big difference in the quality that was out there. Can you tell me a bit about, like, how do they make it alcohol-free?
It's really hard because they have to de-alcohol.
Okay, so they
de-alcoholize the wine.
de-alcohol, so they're adding it in.
And the thing about alcohol, when I was talking before about the different components of wine, alcohol is what gives wine body and texture. So when you take the alcohol out of wine, you're left with a very thin, like it's got a very thin mouthfeel. So I kind of struggle with them because they feel weird to me. They don't feel like wine. They feel flat and thin.
Yeah.
Not necessarily that the flavour's not good. You can still get quite winey flavours in the wines, but it's more, for me, it's more at the feel and the texture. But they are getting better. There are some better examples out there. I think I stock a really cool non-alcoholic sparkling from Germany. That's really good. Drinks really, really well. But then I like the non-beverages. So they're like a wine alternative. So they're actually not de-alcoholized wine. They're actually products that are made with different flavours infused into them, and they manage to get body into those drinks. And they're made with lots of really interesting flavours. They're not sweet, they're not syrupy, they don't taste artificial. They taste really real and quite delicious. So they're sort of my preferred go-to.
to get a list of
non-alcoholics.
those.
Yeah, I do a lot of non-alcoholic cocktails throughout the week, but then when they lack body, I'll put a shot of vodka in them.
Yep.
Just to make it,
And I mean, the spirits are better. Spirits are good because they don't, spirits, you can mix non-alc spirits.
Yes.
So they sort of tend to work better. And there's some fantastic non-alcoholic spirits, and beer is the same, like some really great beers.
Dad's a
But wine
big
is
beer one.
wine is tricky.
Still hard, yeah.
It's still a bit tricky. But definitely a growing market, you know, and even like not wine, but just non-alcoholic drinks in general. There's such a huge range of really cool things that people are doing.
Yeah.
And so one more question before we go to talking about holding wine glasses and doing a little half podcast promo. What's an underrated wine that we should all try?
As in a variety?
Yeah, do variety. So that gives us listeners
Underrated variety. I mean, I guess-
underrated. Like, so they'll give us, you know, like, because I remember when we were working at Must back in the day, you were one of the few fellow colleagues that I actually knew about Muscadet.
Yes. I love Muscadet.
See, and we had
Yeah.
this massive conversation.
Had a glass of it yesterday.
I know, it's just amazing.
Hang on, explain.
It's a great variety. Well, it comes from, it's a variety called Melon de Bourgogne. It comes from the Loire Valley.
Yeah.
And it's a really beautiful, it's quite a neutral white grape variety, but it's high acid and it sort of grows quite close to the sea. So it's got this beautiful kind of coastal influence. So it's quite salty and fresh. And they're really nice wines, really minerally.
We've got to try that one.
They're not kind of fruity wines. They're definitely in the more mineral, savoury realm. But they're really bright and lots of acid and sort of, crunchiness. They're really refreshing wines to drink. And Pickpool as well. I really like Pickpool for the same reason.
Yeah, okay. And it's grown on, is it grown on the coast, Muscadet?
Muscadet is,
Yes,
coast in Loire. Pickpool's further south in Languedoc sort of area.
Yep.
But there are some Pickpool plantings in Australia now. So a few people are making Pickpool in South Australia, which is cool.
Right.
I think it has a good future in Australia as a variety.
Okay.
So that's one to watch. I think, obviously in Australia we're planting a lot of drought-resistant, sort of heat-tolerant Mediterranean varieties, which work really well. Things like Fiano and Nero d'Avola are doing quite well. Tempranillo, peaks and troughs. I think Pickpool's cool. I really like Vermentino as well. I think Vermentino's got an Albarino. There's some nice examples of that kind of coming out. I think, though, as an Australian underrated variety, probably for people who don't know the industry that well, I would say Grenache.
Yeah.
Grenache is good.
Grenache is amazing, and we have some of the greatest plantings of Grenache in the world, in this country.
Okay. Did not know that.
And
I just say all I can think about is chocolate ganache. So can you explain?
Grenache is a red grape variety.
red grape. Okay,
Yeah, it's a red grape.
So I'm
and
just
it was
thinking
like
I've been
often-
educated by Renee.
I mean, I think back to Must days, and it was always it grows a lot in Barossa and Macca Vale in South Australia.
GSM.
And it was always blended with Shiraz and Mourvedre or Mataro, so it was a GSM kind of blend. And Grenache used to be quite sort of, it can ripen, it can get quite sweet in terms of its fruit style. So it used to always remind me of like a bag of like strawberry and cream lollies or like little red raspberry lollies. It gets really, it's very red fruited.
Writing a note.
And it can get that slightly confected character if it's grown in warmer areas and not well handled. But I think in the last sort of 10, 20 years, there's been such a great amount of work done with people that are growing and making Grenache. And it's making, like, some of the Grenache coming out of McLaren Vale, like Blewett Springs,
Right.
Clarendon Hills, like, there's just such great wines. They've got really great structure. They're more like gravelly, savoury.
Nice.
They're really cool wines,
really
and
cool.
I really feel very strongly about Australian Grenache. Also Swan Valley. I mean, we have some really beautiful
Swan Valley's got amazing
Grenache vines in the Swan, and there's people doing really cool things with Grenache in Swan, so...
All right. So
Yeah.
I think we have to like look into that.
I know. I have so many things to taste after this. We're going
Write your
to have a tasting at our house. We'll get some hamburgers and some champagne.
We were debating this, and I was just going to say, whenever I pour a wine,
Yeah.
I always get yelled at and told I'm doing it wrong. Is there a wrong or right way?
Like for my role as a sommelier, yes, there's a correct way to pour wine.
But just in
Yes.
general, is there? There's no real, because you're always like, you're doing it wrong. It's like how?
I mean,
the
no, but
hell-
once you know, it's hard to watch someone
Yeah.
do it poorly.
But does it
know.
aid to it?
It's
Does
to
it help
aerate the
it?
wine, isn't it, as you
I
pour?
mean, it doesn't really, the way you pour it doesn't really aid the wine going into the glass. It just looks nicer.
Ah, okay.
Thank you.
And it just doesn't make as much mess.
Did you hear what she just said?
Yeah.
I'm just looking at you, Renee.
I heard what she. I just. I
It depends on the
told you.
glassware as well, and depends on
Yes.
how big the glass is.
Oh,
if you're
lots of things.
decanting,
I just
there's
grab
a lot
the
of
glass is there. I
variables.
pour it in there. What I'm supposed to do it like? What am I supposed to get a tea towel and go? Here you go. It's going in there.
No, it's the flick of
gonna
the wrist, isn't it?
aerate.
Yeah,
It's
the flick of the wrist.
It's a
is
flick of the
nice.
wrist.
Okay.
Is that
And
what's
to
the
hold
word?
the bottle by the base, not by the neck. You know, that just looks
Because it's
Well,
yeah,
okay. I
yeah.
just
a
get it
little uncouth.
close to the top.
You know?
Yeah, so that just
So the
hold
next
from the
time
base.
I open a bottle, I'm gonna go from the base.
Yes, see,
Yeah.
that's all, and that's all
Hold
we're
from the
asking. Yes,
Okay.
yeah, that's all we are.
We have had discussions, heated discussions
I'm
about
sure.
this.
Yeah.
It probably hasn't helped when it's through the night.
And the more I drink, the more pedantic I get, which is
I
ridiculous.
can hardly imagine that.
So, and a wine glass. Alex, you had an idea
Yes,
about
I wanted
hold-
to know how to hold them.
wine
So if I
glass. Is
pass
it-
one across to you,
Yeah.
can you show us the correct way?
Oh,
We
sorry.
can all have a little bit of a turn.
I mean, again, I
Would you kill me if you said I hold it like this? Yes, look at that face.
no, I wouldn't
sorry.
kill you. I mean, I think it's nice to hold wine by the stem, a glass by the stem, because obviously if you're holding it, the warmth of your hand will warm the wine up. If you do want to, if it is too
You'll like
cold
that
though, it's
too.
nice to kind of put it in your hands to warm it up a little bit, because I don't like drinking whites that are too cold. But I think it's nice to sort of, it just, for me, it gives a little bit more control holding it by the stem.
I think you're too risky. You might drop your wine.
And for a little swirl to bring out the aromatics. And people are like, why are you swirling it? You look like a wanker. It's like, no, we're not swirling it to like a wanker. You're swirling it to release the aromas and like
I do
the
feel like
wine a bit more
an
oxygen
absolute tosser
contact.
what she's saying now.
Yeah, so it's just a bit, for me.
I can't do that. It's like
I don't know, it just,
it's like
it makes
Just,
sense.
I
Sometimes
use
I'll
my
hold
hands.
it by that,
It's like
so
that.
that's probably a not great thing to do. But if you see someone holding a glass like that, like no one's going on a date
It's
with that
Sauv Blanc.
person. Like
is that a big
big on
turn
the-
off?
It's on the ick list. Can't have that.
As soon as she sits down to on a table and there's a guy waiting, then he's like that. She's like, I'm out of here.
Absolutely. I am
I'm going
leaving.
toilet.
Yeah.
See you later.
It's a long list, and that is definitely on there. It's like, do you know how to
That is okay. That's
hold a glass?
interesting.
Yeah.
I think I do hold it naturally that way anyway.
Yeah,
But I do know the
people
warmth
do.
thing's a big thing.
Yeah.
Depends.
I don't like this that much. I don't like.
No,
I-
that
I-
feels weird. I couldn't.
I
do
think
that.
sometimes I do hold it
Just
like
a bit of
that.
a
Yeah.
stem holder, really.
Yeah.
You know.
I'm between. I'm more that.
Oh, I just want to smell some wine now.
Also, when you
I'm
see
having-
someone in their glasses like covered in like fingerprints,
Yeah.
It doesn't
you
look
know,
good.
It just doesn't look great.
I do want to go there and clean.
Yeah.
afterwards.
So I think that's.
Good. Feel a little bit
So we got
better
the
now.
approval
so
there.
harshly judged by all of my answers.
But you do, no, but you
No.
do get judged by these. No, but
well,
generally when, the
is
reason
what
why
it
you
is.
ask these questions is
Yeah.
because you do get judged with this.
Yeah.
Because I think these things and think, oh, I'm too scared to ask.
Yeah.
Because
I think also, like, it's what I know, though. So, like, I don't know a lot about cars. And for me, like, a car is something to get me from A to B. And when people bang on about cars and, like, fancy stuff with cars, I'm like, cool story, don't care. Like, couldn't.
Yeah, I couldn't care less.
So we've all got our little things that we care about. And mine happens to be wine.
But I want to be known that I know something besides drinking it. Well, can I then ask you a quick question? This is a debate with my group of friends. Ice with red wine.
Oof. I mean, look, I do think that we drink our wine too
Cold.
well, our red wine too warm and our white wine too cold a lot of the time, especially if it's room temperature in Perth. Often it's quite warm. So I do recommend putting reds into the fridge for sort of 15 minutes before you want to drink them if you don't have a wine fridge or a cellar.
But
and then take your whites out 15 minutes before you want to drink them, just to bring them up to temperature, especially Chardonnays and sort of more textural whites with a bit of body. So, look, if you were, I've been known to do it. Like, if I'm having a glass of red and I'm like, I'm not happy with the temperature, because red really, like, temperature is super important, because if it's too warm, the alcohol is elevated. You kind of lose all the structural elements, like the tannin and acid get a bit lost, and it just doesn't sit nice on the palate. It just feels a bit flabby. So I think temperature for red is super important, and I would put I've been known to put one ice block in a glass of red just to cool, just to bring the temperature down a little bit if I haven't had time to put it in the fridge.
Okay. And that's just interesting because
I have been known to do it. My son saw me do it a while ago and he was like, what? And I was like, don't judge me.
it's just one.
I'm not happy with the temperature. It's just one ice block. So, yeah, I think that's okay. But, like, if and chilled red obviously
a handful
is a big
of
thing.
ice.
Like, just have a chilled red. Just put it in the fridge and drink a chilled red. And there's so many great options for that now that are very fresh, bright, juicy styles of red wine that are designed to be chilled and then, drunk.
Because I think it's wrong. But then, like, we've got some friends who a couple ice
it's
cubes
not
in there.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to do a lot for, the enjoyment of the drink. Yeah, I don't think
Just
so.
a debate. I just wanted to know.
I put in summer, I'll have like a nice dry rosé, and I like to put a couple of ice cubes in there.
Yeah, I think sometimes if it's
like
hot,
really
and
hot, and, like,
and
outside,
it's
like,
really
so
hot,
hot.
like and when white or rosé warms up, especially if it's a warm day and you are drinking it outside, if it's warm, it just makes you feel so bleh.
Yeah,
you get
it's
really
just-
like. You need wine to be
Refreshing.
Temperatures are really important, and you want it to be refreshing, and I think that comes down to temperature a lot. So, if there's anything I would put ice in, it would probably be rosé.
Okay, we'll just do a quick hello to one of our sponsors. Sweet Twist cookies, yes, made by my mum, will go great with dessert wines.
let's pair them. Let's pair it.
Wonderful
Shortbread.
homemade
Nice segue
shortbread
there.
biscuits. Happy for corporate. QR codes, whatever you like. There you go. Sweet Twix cookies. Hashtag in our SMs, DMs, whatever abbreviation you'd like to say. Now, moving on. Shall we have a look? Do you want to talk about tannins and acidity, Alex? That one, you want to ask me about that? Because that's quite technical.
They're technical words, and I've never felt comfortable using them. So, like, how would you describe how could someone like a layman like me use them appropriately?
So tannin, I think, is really important to understand. Again, I spoke about it a little bit before, being something that you feel. So I always talk about tannin as something that is a feeling. And I used to often draw pictures for staff. Like, sometimes, doing a diagram can help people understand. So I often used to draw a diagram of a tongue, and then it would be like a smattering of tiny dots was something that I would associate with fine tannins. Whereas if I drew like larger round circles, that would be like coarse tannins. So you need to think about the way tannin feels on the palate, whether it's tongue, cheeks, or the roof of your mouth. And I would use words like, fine, dusty, chalky, silky, slippery, grainy.
I can almost taste each of those
so
wines.
that you can sort of go, okay, I know what that feels like.
Yeah.
And people go, chalky. Well, I've never eaten chalk. Yeah, but imagine if you did.
Yeah.
The visual of it all, really.
I can actually
So
I can imagine that.
Yeah, and so sometimes drawing that visual picture of like whether they're really close together and really fine, or whether they're coarse and quite far apart, that helps for people to understand tannin. But I think talking about it, because people often, if they don't know, will just say, I don't like wine that makes me go,
yeah.
and that's like, well, you don't like tannin. But they don't even know how to describe that. Or they'll say, I don't like dry wine. But I mean, most table wine is dry. So it's like, well, you do. You just don't like tannin, or you don't like, certain things like that. So I think it's sort of, again, that's how I sort of talk about tannin. And acid, for me, is always the refreshment. Acid is, it's prevalent in all wine. It needs to be in wine. It's what keeps it fresh. And I love acid. I love acid and I love tannin. So again, certain varieties have got higher tannin levels and higher acid levels, and certain varieties have lower. So it's about, if you don't like tannin, drinking varieties that have a lower level of tannin.
Yeah.
So I was going to go
drinking,
somewhere else
like-
with the acid bit, but it's okay.
And acid, like, is sort of, I would talk about acid being sort of crisp, fresh, crunchy, driven. I don't know, like acid I don't tend to talk about as much as tannin, but I'll often use words that are about refreshment and
Yeah.
It's like the shower fee mouth. I always say shower fee mouth, but that's the acid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now I touched on this before, but if I open a bottle, I'm having a bad day.
Yeah.
I only want a glass.
I feel like you have a lot of bad days.
She's got young kids. They're coming. You'll see the
bad
light.
day. It's just,
Yeah.
I just
No,
get
I
to
get
the end
it.
of the day and I'm just like,
Yeah.
I just need 30 seconds when no one's touching me
Yes.
or asking
You
me
feel
something.
like you're on repeat constantly.
Yeah,
That's
it
what
is. I'm on repeat for a month until my husband gets back.
And then it's his problem.
And then it's his problem and I have fun for
Later.
bye. So if I open a bottle, only have a glass, say it's my Central Otago Pinot Noir, what's the best way I can keep that so that I can have another glass tomorrow or the day after that? Is there a way to keep it?
Definitely, you can invest in an implement called a Coravan, which is it's an implement that's used to extract wine from the bottle without taking off the cork, or if it's a screw cap, you put a special cork on top of it, and then it's
Okay.
like you siphon it out through this needle
Okay.
and pour it. So they're quite good to invest in. They are quite expensive, but they're good to invest in if you have nice bottles of wine that you want to drink slowly over a period of time. They're quite
Okay.
good.
And does that just keep the oxygen controlled in
Yeah,
the bottle?
you just want to have oxygen. So like a good way to do it is to put it into a smaller bottle
Okay.
and often put it in the fridge. as well.
Okay.
Smaller bottle. Okay.
So if you have a half bottle,
Yes.
or if you can have get a half bottle, drink it, and then keep your half bottle.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
So if you have a couple of glasses and then transfer it into a half bottle, so there's no oxygen contact, and then that will keep better than it will a half full 750ml bottle.
That's actually really good.
Again,
I've never thought of that.
life-changing
I know.
thought. Yeah.
We're learning things today.
Yeah.
You just want
Learning
to keep
so
the
much.
oxygen away from it as much as possible.
Okay. Yeah. And then by that
Not a problem I
tool
have
to
because
put-
I struggle very much to keep a
Keep
can
one for the
say
next
open,
day is
that's
what you're
it.
saying. Keep one for the next
Yeah.
day.
yeah.
I just
To be
wanted to
honest,
But
It's
honestly,
normally-
a couple of days is fine. You know,
Yeah.
I do tend to put it in the fridge, even
Yes.
red.
Okay. And then but you
because
take it out
will-
earlier
But then I'll
to
just
let
take
it
it
warm up.
out. But
Yep.
yeah, and that's usually okay for 2 or 3 days. But if you're talking I want to have a glass of that in a week,
No. It won't
Then
last that long.
I
A
would-
couple of
yeah,
days. 2
a
days.
half bottle's good.
2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask you one last question. So what's it really like being a woman in the industry? Because isn't it, it's quite heavily male
It
dominated?
definitely was.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely was when I first started. And even then I was quite lucky. Like I did have some really great, a lot of my great mentors in my career have been men. So I've been very, very lucky. But I've also met some shockers. But, I've met some really good ones. I've worked with people across the hospo journey that have just been, incredibly
I can imagine.
you can imagine. There is a genre of males that don't like to be told what to do by women, and I've met my fair share of those people. It's definitely not as much of an issue as it was anymore. I think there's so many great women in the industry. I
There's
think in
more
Perth
awareness.
especially, there's so many great women that work in wine in Perth. We're very lucky. Definitely more awareness around it, and I don't know. I think it's just a little bit of the way that you manage it as well. I'm not sure. I work with some really great males that I love, and I work really, really well with them. You can have issues with women as well. So I don't know.
That's true too.
Yeah.
I think I sort of try not to. I mean, oh God, I do sometimes go, oh man. So I can't say that I don't do that.
We have one in here, sorry.
I know. I think I said it this morning actually about something at work. I was like, oh man. But no, I think it's just, I don't know. I think males and females, we're different for a reason. And I think we have different skill sets. And sometimes it's about learning how to complement each other
Yeah.
and understanding that sometimes the men that I work with have a very different skill set and communication style than what I have. And it's not a bad thing. It's just different. I've got 2 teenage boys. So for me, I have to practice that at home a lot as well. And I want them to be really well adjusted. As I said before, before we started this, I want them to be really talkative, conversational human beings. I don't want them to be teenage boys that grunt and don't know how to have a
That's
conversation.
a hard thing in itself too.
And and I'm really proud that they're not that. They love talking to adults. They probably love talking to adults more than they love talking to young people, which is great. They're very, very conversational. They're super chatty, especially late at night now. The later it gets, the more they want to stay up and talk
cool.
and chat. It's really cool. But I think it's more just about understanding what, again, we're different, Mm-hmm. I know I bring a lot of emotion into things sometimes. I'm like, Emma, don't get emotional. This is not something that you need to, So you're always learning how to manage yourself, your emotions.
That's really cool.
Better. Like, no one's great at it. It's hard.
Depends on the month and time.
Yeah, and I think hospitality is hard because whether it's staff members or customers, like when you come into a restaurant or a bar, you bring so much with you about your day and whether you're, starting a shift and maybe you've had an exam that day, sometimes the young staff, if they're studying and they come in and like, my car's broken down and, I've had an exam and I'm under pressure and blah, blah, blah. And they come to work and you're like, you need to leave all that at the door and you need to put a smile on your face and you need to be nice. And then the first table they look after is someone that's also had a bad day.
Unpleasant.
That's going to be unpleasant to them. It's such a fine line of balancing people's feelings and emotions and expectations. And when people sort of say, oh, hospitality, it's such a hard thing to do well.
But you've got so many people that shouldn't be in it though. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think it's an amazing skill to acquire and to be able to deal with, because it's life. It's life skill.
It is. And I think everyone should do it. Like, if I was in charge of the world, I would make everyone work in hospitality for a period of time. Absolutely.
It makes you humble.
It makes you humble. It makes you a nicer person.
Yeah. No, you do, because you know what? Like, we've all done different fields of, dealing with the public too. But I think you're a bit more, you understand when you're on the other side. Yeah. But then, like, there's some people that just don't give a shit. And they're just pretty much
I think
assholes.
hospitality, or the other one would be like doctors and nurses. I think those two fields are like, everyone should have to do one of the two.
They go hand in hand.
I look at doctors and nurses and I'm like, I'm just like, bow down to them, what they must deal with in their everyday life. Blows my mind. So that's why I'm like, I'm lucky we deal with food and we deal with
because you can kind of hide back and then just go.
Beautiful spaces, beautiful restaurants, and
it adds to it. It helps you through the night.
It's not bad stuff that we do. It's all good stuff. We're pretty lucky.
It's all about great experiences as well. And with people like you in the industry, Emma, it's a pleasure, really. As I said at the beginning of the interview, I've followed your career and your accolades. I'm so proud of you.
Oh,
I really am.
Thanks.
Of where you've
That's
got
very
to.
kind of you to say.
Yeah, and so I think that's probably end of the Q&A, ladies. Do you think?
Sure.
What do you think? And then we're just going to have a bit of fun with you. We've had lots of fun though. We've had a lot of fun in the chaos. And this is something that we go 20 truths in 30 seconds. And
anything, the first thing that pops in your head.
First thing that pops in your head.
Doesn't matter if it doesn't relate. It's just whatever comes in your head.
All right.
Thank God I'm not doing this, just so you know, because I've only got one word and it starts with C. Okay. You ready?
Right, I'm ready.
Okay, ready.
Bubbles.
Champagne.
Cheese.
France.
Men.
Oh.
That's an answer.
That's the answer.
Okay. Perth.
Sunny.
Melbourne.
Coffee.
Burgundy.
France.
Apple.
Crunch and sip.
Vegans.
Hairy.
Goon juice.
Easy.
This is too much. I don't know, box wine.
Meat.
Vegetarian.
Husbands.
Irrelevant.
Service.
Pleasure.
Spain.
Tapas.
That's a good one.
That's really good. Bordeaux.
Red.
Motherhood.
Lovely.
Fremantle.
Love it.
Fish.
Ocean.
Bread revolution.
Bread revolution. Glutard.
That's a good one.
Goats.
Goats.
Goats, yeah. Goats.
Love.
Okay.
Eyes that go sideways. My favourite animal.
Beer.
Yeast.
That was it. You did amazing.
Well done.
I don't even know what I said.
So good.
That was a real pressure
See, it's
cooker.
just the first things that pops into your head.
Yeah.
You can't control that.
So finishing on yeast.
Yeast.
Best way to end something, yeast.
Well, because I'm a glutard, so for me, like bread and beer, I'm like all bad things.
But don't you think there is a bread revolution going on?
Oh God, yeah, it's boring me to death. Like no more freaking bakeries, please.
There is actually too many bakeries now.
Yeah.
It's like every 5 steps
This
you
is
go
a
and see a
whole
bakery.
other podcast, though, so we're going to have to say goodbye for today.
Oh, I
I don't want to chime in on breads.
Actually, I do want to drink wine now.
One more question.
Oh, sorry, Alex has got one more question.
just wanna
So
cut Renee off.
One more question, Alex. Here we go.
Alex,
I wanted to ask you about your current establishments because
Yes. Of course, we haven't talked about them.
I know because
Sorry,
I love
after all that.
Of all the places, so I came over to Perth for a visit in 2017, and they were finishing up the renovations
Yes.
there, and the project just
Yes.
finished. And then I came over in 2021. And I started to work in the city, 2022. So I would frequent your establishments.
Yeah.
And now that whenever I have a friend come here from Sydney, I take them to one of theirs.
Yes,
So,
as I said before, bring the Sydney people.
Yes.
It's nice to show off what
Yes.
we do.
That we're the same.
It's actually pretty
Well
good here.
placed.
I'm like, Perth is okay. Yeah. I used to say that to my som friends in Melbourne and Sydney. That was our name of our group chat. It was actually Perth is okay, and that was before Perth is okay.
No, the
The
actual
actual
business,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think the building's beautiful. I mean, I'm very lucky because it's a gorgeous heritage listed building. I get very spoiled. I forget how lovely it is to go there every day. But it's such a good place because there's such a variation in terms of what we offer from a food and beverage perspective. So you can come and have a beer, and then you can go up to Wildflower and have a cocktail on terrace, and then you can go down to Longchym and smash a bowl of noodles. You can go into Post and have some pasta. Then you can go to Wine Merchant and, drink wine. You can do cocktails. You can do afternoon tea. You can do all of the things. Everything from, a burger and a glass of wine through to, 8-course degustation, which is really nice. It's nice to be able to not take every little bit so seriously. And there are certainly venues within the building that are, we try and have a little bit more fun with, that have a bit more personality. Longchym is very cheeky. It's very spicy and smoky and dark and fun. So we can do, cheekier sort of fun things down there. Whereas Wildflower is obviously, premium sort of. I hate using the word fine dining because I don't really think it's super relevant in this current climate of the way we eat. But it is, I guess, what you would classify as fine dining. And so everything up there needs to be a little bit more polished. But I don't like using the word fine dining because I think it scares people off. And we don't want, even though the service in Wildflower is polished and the service in Longchym might be a little bit more friendly and cheeky and cute because a lot of our Thai staff just are in general because they're just such beautiful human beings and they are cheeky and cute and gorgeous. And even if they make a mistake, I just love them to death. I'm like, oh my God, I love them. There's something about the service that we try to sort of tell all of our staff that and we talk about creating exceptional experience. That's kind of our phrase or our catchphrase of the building. It's what we want to do for everyone, whether they come in for an amazing dinner or just a glass of wine. We want them to have a really exceptional experience. So there's got to be a sense of warmth in the hospitality, whether you're doing one or the other. And it's about people being knowledgeable, like super friendly and engaging, but not, no arrogance, no...
It's like at the door.
Yeah. So that's, it's always, I just sort of tell people because, I mean, again, for me, hospitality is in my blood, but it's like if you're inviting people into your home, how you'd want them to feel.
Yeah.
And that's how I want people to feel when they're coming into our
Which you do,
spaces.
though. You do feel that.
And that's really the best way you can describe it to
An outsider.
I think in the building as well, like my favourite, like in the middle is Petition. So,
Yeah.
and I would bring my friends from Sydney. We go to the bar that's just opposite Petition, and then there's like real bartenders in there, and they go like, "What do you want?" And I'll be like, "Oh, I want something that's like a whiskey sour, but can you try something different?"
Yeah.
Like, and they'll make you something for you.
Yeah.
And then we'll go into Petition and have just great service, great food.
Yeah, and you want people with stuff show your personality. Like, don't be this cookie cutter sort of mold of.
Yeah, and I love walking into a restaurant and just saying, "Can you pick for us?" There'll be like 3 or 4 of us, and I said we just want to all share if that's the style of restaurant, and then just get them to pick what they think. And then I said, bring some wines.
Yeah,
for
and
it.
that's my favourite type of table as well because then you know exactly what to do that's going to make everything great for them and have a good experience. That's what you want.
Yeah, and I love that you can do that in all your restaurants there.
Yeah.
Because not every place you can do that here.
No.
You can't just walk in there and ask them to curate something. You're going to end up with
it's part of their tapestry and ethos, and that's how they. It's great.
Most don't have a personality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do.
Yes, as you can see today.
Sometimes too much. Yeah. I've been told.
Not at all, Emma. Not at all. So thank you from us for
Thank you for having me.
That was
for
fun. It
time
was really
today.
fun.
Yes.
No, thank
I
you.
learnt a lot.
the
I'm
education.
glad. Yeah, I
and
feel like
the
you guys are going to be
knowledge.
racing to find some pig pool.
I am. I'm going to bother
After work.
today.
Now, you're speaking of being a guest judge at some events. Are you going to is it the Food and Wine Festival? What are we going to in July?
Good food and wine.
Good food
Oh,
and
I
wine?
might be doing something there.
Please say Friday. That's the day we're going.
Yeah, is that? I thought one of my friends from Sydney's coming over to host some wine things, but hers is in October. The one she's doing one in October.
Okay. We'll have to go to that
So I
one
might
too.
be doing.
We'll go to
some
that one
stuff
too.
there.
We're
But
going
yeah,
on
there's a
July
few
Friday,
different
be there.
ones. Yeah, there's
July
different
Friday,
ones on.
everyone. If you want to come see us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll be there judging wines.
We'll
No.
be all in pink.
in
On
Friday
that
drinking.
note, we will see you the next podcast. Have a great week. Thanks a lot, Emma, once again.
Thank you, Emma.
Pleasure.
Thank you.